What were the impacts on the conquest on the Incan society? What was one of the biggest ways the conquest impacted on the Incan society? One of the biggest ways was how the Incan society fell in the feudal system, as most of the Incas would have gone to prison or been enslaved, how most of the Incas would have died by smallpox, making them lose numbers, which means losing power.
So how did the feudal system affect the Incan society? So Pete, one of the ways was the introduction to the feudal system, as the Incas lost their status completely, because most of the Incas were in slavery or in prison for most of their lives. Because of these reasons, the Incas were placed at the bottom of the hierarchy. The Incas who were slaves repeatedly got beaten, making them severely injured, making the Spanish not want the slaves, making the beaten Incas worthless to them, leading the Incas to die, making them lose power, therefore making them go to the bottom of the hierarchy. The Incas' lives were terrible, as most of them were beaten and placed in slavery. The Spanish were abusive of their power, and the Incas did one wrong thing, they'd be sent to prison, eventually dying. Since the Spanish took care of the jail, they would get a very limited amount of food, making them die. This means the loss of Incan population means they have lost the majority power. The Spanish would all be on top of the hierarchy, unlike the Incas, which would be at the very bottom.
The Spanish had brought many deadly diseases to the Incas, such as smallpox, which made them lose 200,000 people of their population, making them lose the power of majority. The diseases the Spanish brought over were smallpox, typhus, cholera, and diarrhea.
So, Professor, why was smallpox so bad, and how did it make you lose power?
There's a couple of reasons why smallpox was so bad, such as how it is contagious, how deadly the disease was, and how the Incan society had never experienced this disease. Smallpox is extremely contagious, as if you're in big groups, it can spread much more easily. This was extremely bad for the Incas, as they lived very close to each other, making it easier for the disease to spread around the tribe. This was one of the reasons that 200,000 people died from this disease. Smallpox was very deadly back then, as they had not found the cure for this disease, meaning they could not help anyone with it. Smallpox destroyed your skins with popping up blisters on your face, legs, arms, and stomach. Diseases were practically one of the deadliest Spanish weapons, as it made the Incas lose number and lose power. Since the Incas had never experienced this disease, they had not adapted to it, making it much more deadly for them. They were vulnerable, and the Incas had no idea what to do with this disease besides sacrifice.
Smallpox made the Incan population fall drastically, it lost 200,000 people from the empire. And this was just one of the many diseases the Spanish brought over, as all the diseases were all deadly to the Incas, but not to the Spanish, and they had adapted to it while living in Europe. So this was a huge disadvantage to them, as the Spanish had no effect. The Spanish brought over the diseases, which were also very bad, making tens of thousands of people ill, from typhus, cholera, and diarrhea.
So how did language affect how the Incas lived? The Incas had to change the language to Spanish, otherwise they would go to prison for not upholding their rules. And when two or more Incas talked to each other, the Spanish were very suspicious, as they thought the Incas were trying to overthrow them.
So how did language make the Incas lose power? So Doctor, the Incas lost numbers drastically because of the form of suspicion. This meaning the Spanish outlawed the Incan language, as they were suspicious that the Incas were planning to overthrow them. This is because they could not understand their language. This made the Spanish fear they were conspiring about to overthrow them, even though they weren't. So whenever two Incas spoke to each other, they would imprison them, because they would fear that the Incas were conspiring to overthrow them, even though they weren't. This is why language made the Incas lose power, because whenever two Incas spoke to each other, the Spanish thought the Incas were trying to overthrow them, even though they weren't. They imprisoned them, making them lose number, therefore losing the power of majority.
You Incas have worshipped a different god and conspired to overthrow us, so we will put you in prison for what you have done.
We shall never follow your petty gods or do anything you desire us to do. The whole of the Incan society had to change their religion, as the Spanish made the Incas be Christian. This making them change their whole lifestyle. The slave would have to build churches, then have to go to church every Sunday and pray, otherwise you would go to prison. If you got caught praying for another god, you would either be killed or sent to prison for life. This happened quite a lot, as the Incas were very loyal to their gods. This is because it had been going through generations, and you will learn all the gods they worshipped at a very young age. This is why a lot of Incas got killed, making lose people, meaning going down the hierarchy.
So these are some reasons why the Incas lost power, how the Spanish conquest affected the Incan society, by changing the feudal system, the introduction to diseases, and the change in language. These have all resulted in them losing power.